From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, spring football starts today. We've got you fully covered with a synopsis and full recap of all the comments from Coach Norvell and the entire staff at yesterday's luncheon. Speed. Speed's what we need. Greasy, fast speed. Will that unlock a whole new gear to the Florida State offense? And some of the sneaky storylines we're hoping to see once the pads come on this spring. Wake Up Warchant presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. CPTallybar.com, the website. You can check out the daily lunch specials. But you know what's going down on Tuesdays, y'all. It's Taco Tuesday, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. It's all day long, like Lionel Richie out there. Soft shell, hard shell, beef, chicken, your choice. $8.99 all day long at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. Shout out, by the way, to loyal listener Chris Ham, who on Monday tweeted at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill because Corey Clark, Aslan, and Wake Up rave about this place. Does not disappoint. Had to check out while stopping by campus. So, shout out to Chris Ham.
Oh, you know what? I got an email from somebody. Which was cool about it was I was at Corner Pocket. I'm trying to find it real quick as we talk. Craig Edwards emailed me, and as I was sitting next to Bill after the baseball game on Saturday at Corner Pocket, that email came in.
Perfect.
And he said he loved it. And how perfect was that? I'm like, hey, man, read this. Keep advertising with us, baby. But read this. And he talked about the pretzels and the beer cheese and how good the pretzels are. And I don't mention the pretzels enough, or the apps in general. But they knock them all out of the park, Aslan.
They do.
The apps are really good. The pretzel's great. If you're into that kind of food, obviously Aslan and I are fitness freaks, so we try to stay away from the stuff like that, but it's hard to do it. And the pretzel and the beer cheese is right on point. So well said, Craig Edwards.
Sharon Clark, blue ribbon to the cheese curds. So
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so check it out, everybody. Also, shout out to Jordan Neal, just doing the Lord's work in the YouTube comments. I see you out there, Jordan. We appreciate you. Salute. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. 5-star rating and review, y'all. Please hit the thumbs up as well. Subscribe to Warchant.com. Spring season's here, everybody. The spring season is here. We'll be at practice later today. Hopefully you enjoyed all the content we cranked out yesterday over on the website. And also give a shout out to our good friends over at Garnet and Gold. If you're a member of Warchant.com, there's so many perks other than being able to talk to the best and most passionate fans in all of the land. Also getting all the great content that Ira, Corey, Jeff and Tom, Ben, Matt, Michael, Gene, myself at times crank out. But you also get good perks like saving 25% off all Florida State baseball items over at Garnet and Gold today. So promo code posted in the Tribal Council forum. Got to be a member to get on that. Use the promo code, save 25% off on all the baseball gear. It's fine if you want to be a fan later, but now's that time to be a fan of the baseball team. Get your swag, get your gear. Who do they play later today, by the way, Corey? They play
Stetson.
They do. That's correct. Yep. So see if they can improve to 19-0 on their march to hopefully what we think would be Omaha. So we spoke to all the coaches, like literally every single coach. Head coach Mike Norvell as well.
By the way, just a quick nugget on baseball, because I just looked it up before the show started. The Florida State baseball team, through a third of the season, so 18 games, leads the nation in batting average, the entire nation, and is fourth in fielding percentage.
Good.
Anyway,
good.
Go ahead.
That's awesome.
Yep.
By the way, they are now ranked, looks like 7th in the Baseball America poll. They are ranked 12th in D1, 8th in the perfect game. The National Collegiate Baseball Writers Association has them at 10th, and the USA Today coaches have them ranked 12th.
I wish there were about 4 or 5 more baseball polls. I don't think 6 is enough. Come on, guys, get it together. Because they showed it. Remember, they were playing Florida last week.
Yeah.
In Florida State was whatever they were, 14-0 at the time. Florida was 8-5. Florida's ranked 6th, and Florida State doesn't have a number next to the name. But whatever poll the ESPN uses was the only poll where Florida State wasn't ranked. I mean, they were ranked in 5 of the 6, right? Yeah. Like 22nd or 19th or something.
Right.
But the one that ESPN used, they didn't have a number by their name, so everybody thought they were unranked by everyone, and it was just no. It was that one poll, and now they went from unranked to 12th.
Yeah, that was the crusade. Like keep that same energy. The people, if they were running low on angst for the snub, it was like, all right, let's redirect it now to Kendall Rogers and D1 baseball. So we see you folks out there. It's a great way to live, Hey, man, just be passionate and demand change. Good things can happen. What's going to happen this year, Corey Clark? What's going to happen during spring football? It starts this afternoon. We'll be out there covering practice, filming it, getting interviews afterwards. But Coach Norvell kind of set the table on Monday morning, speaking about this upcoming spring. I thought the more interesting points were kind of him talking about the verticality of the passing game maybe being a little bit more pronounced this coming spring and fall. The value of having all of his coaches still together. That was something he kind of wanted to make sure people knew how much he appreciates his coaching staff. What were some of the other things that caught your ear as you were typing out literally every single thing he said?
Well, so I wrote about it wasn't a column, it was just a straight news story about him basically wrapping up kind of an overview of what he said. And I thought the continuity was a really big point that he tried to make, that the continuity of the staff, where he said that he was told, which is I like that. He's not claiming it's a fact. He was saying that somebody told him, which it's got to be close to true if it's not absolutely true, that Florida State is only one of 5 teams in the United States that returned their head coach and all 10 position coaches from last year. Mm-hmm. Which, again, number one, it tells you about the absurd instability of college football and how everybody's moving, the moving parts of every program every year, but also the stability of what's going on in Tallahassee, that all 10 position coaches stayed. I think that is a big deal. If you want to think about the 90s here, one of the big factors, the biggest obviously, was the talent on the football field, but they didn't have a lot of turnover. Mark Richt was the OC for a decade, essentially, or close to it, or the QB coach anyway. John Eason was around forever. Brad Scott was around for a long time. Mickey Andrews, of course, was around forever. Higgins, like all those guys, and I just think that really does help, because you stability and continuity in this day and age, I think everything being equal, that puts you a little bit ahead of the curve. You trust the guys that you're with. They've proven they can do it, and they stay with you and are loyal to you. We're all loyal to a point. But I thought it was interesting. He said that not only did some assistant coaches have left, but some off-field coaches had a chance to go be position coaches elsewhere and decided to stay at Florida State. I think that speaks a lot about the trust and belief they have in this program and that head coach, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Again, just it's incredible. There's only 5 staffs that are brought back intact, like the way Florida State is. So definitely not a common thing. So they'll use that to their advantage as they kind of break in a new quarterback and a lot of new pieces. What also was very interesting, and I don't know, man, like, are we ahead of schedule, Corey, when you lose Jermaine Johnson? You're like, all right, well, there's going to be a little bit of a step back there, but Jared Verse seemingly held the rope, if not maybe, I don't know, he didn't outperform Jermaine, last season, or at least 2022, which was probably his better season. But the way he talked about the speed, all the numbers that they hit, like this was the strongest group they've ever had here at Florida State. They made the most gains, like body weight transformation stuff. You look at the turnover, and like, all right, man, they'll take a step back here, maybe a step forward there, take a step back here, but seemingly there's nothing that is going to take a step back if you listen to the way this coaching staff talked about their players on Monday. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We'll see. It would be. He also can't, if he really was worried that they're taking a big dip in talent. Monday wasn't the day for him to tell us that. Like, guys, we got some work to do. With the cupboard is bare, gang. I see why they didn't play at Alabama. Like, you don't want to say that kind of stuff, and you wouldn't. But I do think it's genuine how excited he is about what happened over the winter. Pat Payton gaining 15 pounds, and it's been 3.5 months. It's not that long. Like we say, the offseason or the winter program, like the Orange Bowl was January 1st, and we're in the middle of March. So how many days is that? 80? 5 to gain 15 pounds is something else. But yeah, he needed it. And if he can keep the same, ability and speed and quickness with that extra weight, he's going to be a handful. He already is a handful. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And him talking about that, he also, once again, unsolicited, out of nowhere, mentioned Cam Fryer. Like, is that kid going to play as a freshman? I mean, I guess we'll find out, right?
Yeah.
But it's odd, right? He didn't mention any. I'm sure he did mention freshmen later on, maybe. But out of nowhere, just talking about guys that have impressed him, I don't even think he was talking about the receivers in general. Just guys that have impressed him. And he mentioned Cam Fryer again.
I think maybe he sees part of himself in Cam, you know?
Could be.
Well, no, I mean,
wouldn't that be something if Cam has 86 catches this year just because of his coach was a similarly sized wide receiver? So, but I thought one of the cool moments was him talking about Jared Verse and Jermaine Johnson being in his office or seeing them in the at Moore earlier on Monday before he met with us. They were just there. And then Adam
Jarian and Renardo Green, by the way, they were hanging out.
Yeah. But then Adam was talking about both of those guys being in his office. Adam Fuller was talking about both those guys being in his office later in the day, too. And it's cool when you think about, Jermaine Johnson was here for 8 months. Jared Verse was here for a year and a half. And yet this really is home to them. And I think a lot of that has to do with the dude at the top. He makes them feel a part of the program. And obviously Jermaine and Jared had great careers, great seasons, and were really good players, and both are, I assume Verse is going to be a first-round pick, so they were both first-round picks. So you want to celebrate them, that they came through your program. But the fact that they don't just – it wasn't just a mercenary decision, let me go there for 8 months, peace out, and never come back. That to me just says a lot about what this program is. And it's corny, it's cliche, it's a trope, but if it feels like a family to those guys, if they always feel like they're welcome, like this is their program. They are Seminoles. They were not just 1 year, 2 year transfers that moseyed on out the door, and then are forgotten because they never played together. But that they're sitting there talking and feel like real Seminoles, and that's what Norvell was talking about. And that was really like Adam Fuller seemed like genuinely touched that they were together in his office talking about their time at Florida State and what it meant to them, and that they're back. You're still here. I assume Jared's getting ready for pro day, but Jermaine Johnson's here too. I don't know. That caught my ear is something that's I feel like a little bit unique because they weren't teammates and they weren't at Florida State from the time they were 18 until they were 22. They were both already grown men when they got to Florida State, well traveled, 21 years old. They didn't just treat it as a business trip or a business stay. It feels like home to them, I guess. And I just think that speaks to maybe what this program is and what maybe can set this program apart for some other schools that are transfer heavy.
All right, yeah. I was eavesdropping. I like how you told Coach Fuller, you're like, man, that would have been really cool if they both would have played together. You guys would have gone 13-0 anyways, and look what happened. And then you also asked Coach Norvell about whether or not.
I'm trying to stir a pot. They won't do it with me, though.
I asked Odell, I don't know.
Oh, to finish your sentence, sorry I cut you off. I asked Norvell if the Combine kind of validated how good Florida State was in 2023, and also did it make a statement about that team in particular, hoping he would be like, yeah, we should have been in the playoff. Look at those numbers, but he didn't.
So Odell's at peace with it. I spoke to Odell. Are you at peace with it yet or no?
No. I don't think I ever will be at peace with it. Just because of just how you grow up in sports, and it was just, look around. I made the tweet the other day about Florida still getting to play in the NCAA tournament. They still got selected. They lost their center to a gruesome injury, and they still get to play. I'm not going to relitigate it. We don't have to keep talking about it. But no, I won't ever probably get over it. And I'm always going to be snarky about it. And if and when Florida State gets more players drafted this year than Alabama, Corey Clark's Twitter feed will let you know. And next year, when 8 more players from that team get drafted, I will add that up and tell everybody, oh, yeah, that's now X number of players off that team that wasn't good enough without its quarterback to play for a national title. And that's the team that would have lost to Michigan by 40. all those guys that are in the NFL now, yeah, they would have gotten steamrolled by Michigan by 40. Yes, that will always be a part of who I am, Aslan, until I stop doing this.
All right. Well, I asked Coach Atkins about losing Jordan and just like the real value of him being able to check them into the correct play. And then he interrupted me and was like, over 90% of the time. So like that starting quarterback that they were going to be without would get them in the right play over 90% of the time. And he had full reign to run the offense. But, Atkins pointed out the fact that it took like practically 4 years for that to happen. He did not have full reign in 21. He did not have full reign in 2022 until Atkins said probably game 7. And we all know how they played from that point on in 2022 and then how they looked last season with Jordan having full reign. So I was a little bit kind of concerned about, well, you're pretty much just admitting like that's part of the mix of what made you guys so successful was having him so knowledgeable and so astute at getting all the right things. Like you can't expect DJ to do that. So what can you expect out of DJ? And he puts it on himself and this coaching staff. And I think they've proven it to everybody that they can get it done. So I guess you really shouldn't be skeptical about it. But he was saying they'll tailor whatever they have to around whoever's going to be the quarterback and whatever talent they have. He admitted, he's like, listen, we don't have Trey anymore. We have Roydell. They're not alike. We need to figure out the best way of using him. And then just kind of pointing out the fact that they will figure out a way to call the plays, generate an offense that's not going to be predictable. Because at the end of the day, it's all about whether or not they can get guys in the right positions to get them open. So he's expressing a level of confidence that, okay, maybe we won't be able to rely on the quarterback to figure everything out. They'll have to check to the sideline, which is going to pose its own set of problems or give a little bit more of the advantage back to the defense. But we've seen them, right? Like the amount of self-scout they do and how they talk about how important it is, that's going to allow DJ and the staff to create plays, schemes that are not going to be able to be easily figured out, maybe the way things were early in 21 before, Jordan developed a little bit more and they were able to give him some of that, latitude. So I thought that was the biggest kind of takeaway, big picture from Alex Atkins. Thoughts on that or any kind of big picture stuff that Adam Fuller talked about when you spoke to him about the defense?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting about Jordan. And again, I was saying that all through last year. We both were. I wasn't, the only one. But he was beating teams more with his mind than his athleticism last year, which is a great sign about him as a quarterback that he can do that. He's not just some freak with legs. He's really smart and really good in that offense and always got him in the right play. Hardly ever made horrible mistakes. He made like 5 horrific throws or horrific decisions all year. And it's like, man, when he's making that many decisions every game, he's making like 55 decisions a game. So you add that up, that's 700 decisions in a season. And he made like 5 to 10, it felt like, that were bad. That's just a remarkable percentage. It won't be like that. DJ is probably going to make some throws where you're like, "Ew, what was that? What was he looking at?" But that's most quarterbacks. That's how most teams have lived. Like, that's how most programs are. Alabama had to live with that last year. Their quarterback made some horrific throws, and everybody does. So it will be interesting to see how they tailor it to DJ. And will they make it like this isn't a read. You're handing the ball off, or no, you're keeping it. This is not you looking at a defensive end or a linebacker. This is what you're doing with the ball. Or I don't care if they shift up front. You're still calling this play. I don't think so, though, man. I think when he's played, again, I don't know the number. He started 3 years of high-level football, 2 in the ACC, 1 in the Pac-12. He's played in a ton of big games, so he's got, 35, 38 starts under his belt. I feel like you should be confident that he's going to make the right decision most of the time. So that's but it is their job to translate, communicate, and get him ready to go. He is not like a no-coach-needed quarterback like Jordan essentially was last year, where Jordan was basically a coach with him. Yep. He was an offensive coordinator with him. That won't be the case, at least early, certainly not in the spring. So there is going to be some coaching that has to take place for the first time in, what'd you say, 18 games? Well, since, Florida, Louisville, and then Georgia. Those were some coaching. Not a great return on those coaching investments, but, I mean, come on, what were you supposed to do there? But when it comes to Adam Fuller, so I talked with him, probably 15, 20 minutes. He does think, because I asked him, I was like, I know you lost 2 really good defensive linemen, plus Fabian Lovett, who was also very good when he played, but 2 potential first-round picks, or early-round picks anyway. But do you think you have a chance to be maybe not better, but as good and certainly deeper on the defensive line? He goes, yeah, absolutely. He goes, you have – he mentioned Josh Farmer a couple of times unsolicited, like what he looks like body-wise. I wasn't out at the tour of duty. I didn't see him. But, he was raving about Josh Farmer. Obviously, Darrell Jackson is back. Patrick Payton is back. Those 3 alone are solid starters, right? At least. Like, I think Farmer and Jackson are a pretty darn good defensive tackle duo. Mm-hmm. And I think Patrick Payton is an all-conference caliber player. Yep. And then, add in the transfers after that, which you got the kid from Colorado State, the kid from West Virginia, Marvin Jones Jr., and then the kid from Oregon State. So you brought in 4 defensive linemen, all with a lot of experience. Well, Marvin does have a ton of experience, but former 5-star that you think is going to be in the mix. So now you've got that's 7 that you expect to probably play a good amount, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was asking Odell like where he wants to be, like if he has that 5, and he joked like I really would like to have 10, but I mean,
right.
he talked
and Daniel
about
Lyons too, right? Daniel Lyons is a guy, so that's 8.
Yeah, so he was saying that, Farmer is moving around good enough. It's kind of like the conditioning aspect right now might not be ideally where you want to be, but again, it's March, that can come. He really likes the way that Darrell's been performing. I think Norvell even singled out Darrell Jackson during his opening comments. On Daniel Lyons, Odell was saying it's just like the little things with him consistently, but in terms of like playing with the right amount of effort and being physically ready, he is. It's just cleaning up details and being more consistent. And then with Grady Kelly, he just kind of pointed to the fact that, he was almost being a little bit cocky about it, but it's awesome because it's Odell, and it's like, yeah, you have every right to be, but just they know fit. Like they know how to find the right fit in the portal, bring the right guys in, and Grady Kelly's like checked off all the boxes in terms of being able to hit the ground running, picking up on what they need him to do, and him being excited to perform what they need. So, they're going to be just fine, it seems like, up the middle.
Yeah, and then I thought something else interesting from Adam Fuller was just Earl Little. He said is going to start at nickel. Okay. Not start as in he's the already starter. He's won the job. That's where the position they're going to start him out at is nickel. And it didn't sound like it was something where they were kind of experimenting. He seems pretty adamant that that's where he's going to play. He also said he had the best high school tape of anybody's ever recruited. All right. And so that was, and he now has his coach, his former head coach at what is it, American Heritage?
Correct.
Yeah. So Patrick Surtain is his position coach, and they think he can be a really, really good nickel. So that if we were wondering if he would move to safety. Now things change, right? But for now, you look at, I would say this is just Corey Clark talking before spring practice has even started in 2024. Fitzgerald Cypress is a starter at one corner.
Yes.
Azarie Thomas is another corner. Yep. Earl Little is your nickel. Shaheem Brown is your safety.
And I'm guessing
the other safety spot.
Devontae Brown, I'm assuming, might have inside track to start, I guess.
Yeah, the other safety spot, he mentioned Hussey. He mentioned Ashland Barker. Yeah. That's wide open. But he also, he said, last year they played 3 corners. He'd like to be 3 or 4 corners. Out wide, I mean. And then obviously you'll rotate some nickel some too. But I feel like Earl Little is a guy that you don't want to come off the field. So,
but you're Jamie Robinson kind of.
Yeah, but you remember they started Jamie at I guess that's what I keep envisioning is what they did with Jamie. Jamie started at nickel, and then eventually when the defense finally turned around, it was when they moved him to safety, right?
Right, correct.
Like they took him off nickel, they got him a little bit further away from the football, and you just wonder, okay, in this defense, is that position opposite Shaheem Brown more important than a nickel corner? But I don't know. I mean, again, that's why they get paid a lot of money, and he does get paid a lot of money. I congratulated him on that, by the way. Is that off? Is that out of bounds? Should I not do that?
No, I mean, because it wasn't. You didn't do it like while you guys were on cameras while you were having your lunch and just sitting around chewing the fat.
But I guess I just did admit to it. But I did before I interviewed him. I'm like, before I was getting the camera ready, I'm like, hey man, just so you know, congratulations on everything. That's really cool that it's worked out like this for you. And he's like, but it was funny. Because we were talking about 2020, and he was like, that was such – what word did he use? It was an immeasurable year. You couldn't measure anything off it.
I thought it meant immeasurable in terms of like the value they got out of it or something.
He was saying like it was you couldn't measure anything because of the way the season went in COVID in no practice at all. It was no way to judge. You couldn't judge anything based on that year, and it wasn't like an excuse. He was just like we didn't know what we had. Like not even just like how good he was. He wasn't talking about himself, but also just like what the program was, how good it was going to be, and what kind of players they had. They didn't even know, and turned out they had some good ones, or went and got some good ones, I should say.
Part of me was thinking about asking Norvell about. You're like one of only a handful of guys that has been contractually rewarded at the level that you are now. How do you keep the same drive and edge? But I'm like, he's going to think it's like an attack and it's going to go into like full defensive speech mode. So I'm like, I'm just going to hang out and hit record today. It was easy.
Nice. You asked the question though, didn't you?
I think it'd be about integrating DJ, his ideas, and he's kind of like, we'll run our offense. We'll figure it out.
So that was another one. I guess I can mainly talk about the people I interviewed. So I interviewed Fuller. I was there for Norvell, obviously, and then Ron Dugans. And, he did admit, he's like, that it's going to be a different kind. He's excited, but it's going to be a different kind of deal for him. It's going to be a different job for him, assignment. Because, once Keon said he was coming, man, you had 2 of your 3 starting receiver positions locked and loaded. Literally, you're like, okay, well, Johnny's starting and Keon's starting. Who's going to be the other guy? Everybody was kind of fighting for one spot. Well, now nobody's a guarantee. Literally, nobody in that wide receiver room is a guaranteed starter.
Yeah.
The way they talk about Malik, the way he talked about Malik, I feel like he's got an inside track. Portier, probably, if he's healthy, I think they do like him. But who knows? Who knows? Hakeem might be awesome. We just Cam Fryer might lead the country in receptions. We have no idea. Like he's got 14 or 15 guys battling realistically for 7 spots. Jakai's going to be one of them. That's the only thing I can say for certain. Portier too. So if they're healthy, for certain, if they have let's say a 7-man rotation with the 3 wide receiver spots, Jakai and Portier are 2 of the 7.
Yeah, but
other than that, you have no idea. You
wouldn't say that Hakeem, if you're going to use the number 7, you wouldn't say Hakeem and Destin are definitely part of the 7-man rotation?
No, because Malik and the kid from LSU might be awesome. One of these true freshmen might be Destin Hill, Vendravius, Williamson. Like, it's hard to know. It's not that they're loaded with unbelievable first-round talent necessarily, but there's so much unknown that this is such an important I think coming out of the spring, assuming they're all healthy, coming out of the spring, I think we'll have a very good idea who like the top 5 or 6 are. But I do think right now, and he kept alluding to this, he's like, he goes, I just can't wait for the pads to come on. I want the pads to come on. Basically saying it's cool to see them running around hula hoops and seeing how fast they can go in an empty gym, essentially. But I want to see what they look like with the pads on going up against that secondary. And they got, they have a month now to kind of separate themselves. Some will, clearly. I think Hakeem, personally, if you're asking me, yes, I think Hakeem is a part of that. But it's not a guarantee. I guess that's the point. It's not a guarantee. Jakai and Portier are definitely, I think, 2 of their 6 or 7. Other than that, I think Malik. I think the kid from LSU that I cannot remember his name. The portal's hurting your man. Back
Jalen Brown.
Jalen Brown. There he is.
JB.
God bless him.
J. Bizzle.
Old JB. Like back in the day, I knew all the names. It wasn't so transient. They come and go so quickly these days. But yeah, so I think those guys will be part of the plans. But you don't know. You just don't know. I mean, they really like Hakeem, and Hakeem was really starting to come along until he got hurt. Vendravius was one of the stars of last spring. Yeah. Destin Hill, who knows? Because he never really got healthy once he got here in the summer. It's his first spring, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
So, yeah, man, there's just so much unknown and so much untapped potential that I think this is going to be really fun to watch that group.
I just think if you asked everybody listening to this to rank their 7 best receivers, I don't think any of us rank them in the same order. But I think probably 95% of us all have the same 7 guys, though. That's all I was trying to communicate on that. What
about Williamson? because they like him a lot.
Let's just name 7
when
guys.
When he's healthy.
Okay. All right, yeah.
That's what, you know what I mean? Like, no, he's a guy that I wouldn't put in my top 7 either. But he's a guy that I think if you polled them, the coaches, the ones that matter, I think they do like him a lot. And we've seen him make plays. He's made some plays in games, not many because he just can't get healthy. But if he's healthy, maybe he's a guy that just has a breakout year.
Yeah.
Like, I just haven't seen enough from Malik Benson. I haven't seen anything, clearly, from Malik Benson and old JB to know for sure they are going to start out in the middle of March, their first spring, ahead of a few guys that have been here 4 years. I think by the end of the spring, probably, but I just don't think it's a guarantee, right? But I know what you're saying. I see what you're saying. There's certainly a couple maybe names that I would not mention that I don't foresee being in the top 7.
See, Corey and I, we see eye to eye. We're focused. We're dialed in. Maybe it's because Vitamin Energy Focus Plus. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo codes WarChant BOGO. WarChant BOGO. Buy one item, get one of equal or lesser value for absolutely free. They're giving it away for free. That's crazy. Why would they do that? Because they're Florida State alums. They like the program. They like you folks. They remember what it's like to be a student, to be a big-time fan. They want to give back to you folks. So go to VitaminEnergy.com and get the promo code WarChant BOGO. Try the variety pack. Dabble, get your feet wet, try all the different varieties they have, packed with vitamins and nutrients that can help improve your focus, help improve your pump in the gym, help your immune system out, put you in a better mood. For real. It's clinically tested, clinically proven. VitaminEnergy.com. Again, that promo code WarChant BOGO. WarChant BOGO. Saw this post on the Tribal Council. Shout out to our own Irish O'Fell. There's a segment of the fan base that I hope still listens to that listens to podcasts. I hope podcasts are for everybody. It's for the kids. It's for everybody. The first quarterback to lead Florida State with the victory over Florida, hooking up with Fred Biletnikoff on many times. Steve Tensi passed away on Monday at the age of 81. Corey, I did not know that was the factor that would connect and run throughout the course of his career, the headline, the first ever quarterback to beat the Gators, but just wanted to acknowledge the loss of a great Florida State great. You weren't there for that game with your dad, though, right? You weren't there. That wasn't your time. That was well before.
It was not. Yeah, it was a little before my time, but not my dad's time. That's what I was going to say. Yeah. My dad was a student with Tensi and Biletnikoff. Yeah. So that's when he fell in love with Florida State football. Was watching him throw passes to number 25. So R.I.P. Well, the first really nationally known quarterback. Well, the player was Biletnikoff, but the guy throwing to him. Bill Peterson was the coach, but Tensi throwing all those touchdowns. It's when Florida State was kind of really put on the map for the first time.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it on the offense here. I was speaking to Coach Atkins and some of the other tidbits, Corey, to pull away from it. I asked him jokingly kind of like, will Darius Washington ever just have a home? And he's like, yeah, the offensive line, we're his home. But it sounds like there's no ironclad plan to have him at any one sort of spot. Then I asked him, I'm like, is it fair to say then that Rob, Maurice, and Jeremiah are kind of like your foundational pillars? And he admitted as much. So I don't want to say you can etch their names in stone, but those will probably be the guys that they're going to rely on once, rubber hits the road come fall camp, because we'll get some injury updates, I guess, apparently later this week from Norvell or maybe early next week. But what Alex Atkins did say when I asked him about if he expects to have everybody available, he said absolutely, other than probably Rob. He's like, he'll miss spring, but there's a chance he might be able to get involved. But to me, that sounds like he's probably one of those guys that Norvell was talking about that won't be available for spring. But again, he's played so much football. I guess get that poor kid right so he's able to go. And Norvell said that no matter who can't make it throughout spring, they'll be ready once they roll out the fall camp. Julian Armel, I think Ira actually said it while you were maybe on one of your on your honeymoon out there in Nashville, Corey. But Ira had said that he had heard that possibly Julian might move into the interior, and Alex Atkins confirmed as much. What do you think about Julian moving inside to the guard spot? It's I don't know if tackle is too full. I mean, Jalen Early, he admitted, is a guy that's obviously in the mix. He joked about, in this day and age, if kids are still here, that means they're in the mix, because if they're not, they'll leave you. So I guess Jalen Early might be the person that's going to push behind Rob and Jeremiah, and I guess maybe that kind of pushes Julian to playing on the interior.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool that he's willing to move, but I guess the option was he could either leave or he could not play at all. So I think he must see the writing on the wall that this is his best chance to play at Florida State is to move inside. But yeah, it seems like they have a glut of guards. They have more guards than tackles. But I think that tells you that, number one, they think Rob Scott's going to be okay, and that they like Early. And Byers is there too. So,
correct. And then whatever Darius Washington does for you,
Well, that's true. But I feel like that tells you that out of playing the tackle position, Early had separated himself from Armella. So he was not going to pass one of his classmates. So if that's the case, and you're already fourth in a four-man rotation, or maybe fifth, move to guard and maybe have a chance to play, and maybe you can start by this time next year. Yeah, I mean, it happens. It's just, hopefully he can show enough that he and Early are part of the rotation, because you got to start building for when the Mount Rushmore guys leave. They got to leave eventually, and you want to have some dudes that have been in your program for a while that can slide in and play, or if there's injuries, because there always are on the offensive line, that you can trust guys that are now in their third year.
Yep.
To be able to go in there and play well. And so, yeah, I hope he takes to it, and I hope it works out for him.
And then kind of keeping it there on offense, and we mentioned, I guess, kind of near the top of the show, but what did you think about the way that Norvell responded when you asked him just kind of about speed and just how that might be a new kind of facet of the offense that maybe they didn't have last year? I mean, how do you see that transforming what they are going to be this upcoming season? Because when I asked, Coach Atkins about that, he mentioned that, I'm like, is that going to unlock something different in this offense? And he said, it was a big point of emphasis for them to get guys that can get separation from the jump. Just, I would think that'd be more along the lines of like agility and physicality, being able to like beat off a press. But for him, it sounds like they might have not had the amount of just natural separation from just a pure speed standpoint. That's something they wanted to address this season.
Well, I mean, you look at it, right? Like, we know the times now. Like, your two starting wide receivers, as good as they ran a 4.52 and a 4.6. That's not blowing the top off a defense. Yeah. That's guys that can out jump guys down the sideline, but that's not a threat where the safety has to be like, oh God, let me back up as soon as they snap it. We're scared to death of this guy's speed. Or the corner. The corner playing 10 yards off. Like, look, they'd get bullied by Johnny and Keon a lot. There was a lot of that they did well, but blowing by DBs wasn't really one of them, 50 yards downfield. So in that instance, thinking about it that way, yeah, I do think with Malik Benson, the kid from LSU, Hakeem showed some
Jalen
speed.
Brown, Corey. Jalen
Brown, JB.
Jalen Brown. Say it one more time. Committed to memory.
Jalen Brown.
It's going to stick this time. I got a feeling.
Touchdown, Jalen Brown.
There we go.
Okay, I got it now. It's locked and loaded. So those two guys, along with Bandravius can really run, and so can Destin. Those guys give you something that maybe you didn't have. Not maybe, you didn't have. I mean, I know they were on the team last year, but they weren't really a part of the passing offense. So that will be encouraging to see what if Malik Benson and my man Jalen Brown can get on the field and play a lot, because they're faster. I'm not expecting either one of them to be better than what you had at wide receiver the last year, but they're faster. So theoretically, that should mean occasionally you get a step on a corner and it turns into your 4 yards past them, because they can't keep up with you because you're too darn fast. And they have not had that here since, Pokey. Look, think about the 2022 offense. Obviously, Johnny was the better receiver overall than Pokey. Yeah. But I felt like, and again, they went 13-0, so did they really miss this? But I felt like they missed a Pokey on that 2023 team. Think about the Miami game, the first drive. If you slip up just a second, that dude is too fast. You can't stay with him. He was a legitimate burner. And I think these guys have that kind of speed. So think about look, man, the 2022 offense, even without Keon Coleman, was more productive and better, probably, than the 2023 offense. Now, most of that had to do with the running game, but still, they hit bigger plays downfield in 2022, in my opinion, than they did in 2023. A lot of that was the Pokey effect. You just had a guy that was a 4.38, 4.41 guy, a real burner that you didn't have last year. So now you have a few of them. So I do think they're going to take more shots downfield on posts and plays like that than I think they did a season ago. And he's good at throwing them. So that'll help too.
Again, the longest reception last year was 80 yards, and it was Trey Benson against, I think, Wake or maybe Virginia Tech.
And I feel like, it was against Wake. And I feel like Keon's longest catch was the first drive of the season.
The 58 little yards. So
the one, well, that might not have been it. I think he had one against Virginia Tech that was a long one, but the I don't know, it was like an end route against LSU that he broke a tackle,
there.
But that was like a 50-yard.
Syracuse was 58 yards, and it was that crazy one-handed catch that was like behind him.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't a 58-yarder. That was just an incredible catch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was another play later in the game or earlier than that, later in the game. But the one against LSU was like a 45-yarder.
41. Close.
There you go.
Close.
But that was, that might have been his second or third longest catch, and it was the first play of the season. And it wasn't a deep shot. It was just he turned it into a touchdown. They just wasn't part of their game. And I think this year it'll be something that opposing defenses have to respect. Is you got guys out wide that can blow by you if you're not prepared, if you're not running, if you're not ready to run.
2022, Johnny had the longest catch, 78 yards. Pokey had a 72-yarder as well. Darion had a 52-yarder. So, yeah, maybe a little bit of that speed. I think Darion might be able to give that to you if he's healthy, right? I'm glad you brought him up. That's a guy that we're not talking about enough and certainly is positioned to have a breakout.
But it's also,
possibly.
Why would we?
Yeah.
He's been here 4 years and has done very, very little. That doesn't mean he can't play, but, he's done very little in 4 years, and you've got all these new toys. He's got to go out and prove that he belongs, like he can do it. And I'm not saying he can. In fact, I think he can. But he's got to go. This is it, man. Him and Kentron both. And Dugan's brought him up, Kentron especially. He's like, look, he was one of our best receivers last spring, and then he had the ankle injury. And it never really – I think maybe he didn't say ankle. He just said injury.
Way to spill the beans, Corey.
Sorry, my fault. Who had the – oh, Omar Graham. That's another guy I want to go back to real quick afterwards.
Okay.
Adam Fuller talked about him. But Portier had the injury and never really got healthy until the Orange Bowl. Then didn't he have like a 60-yard catch in that game? I tried to block that whole game out. But I think he had a long catch down to that's where they scored their only field goal he caught a ball down to the 3. But he can play. But he has to be healthy. And those two guys, it's now or never for those two guys. That breeds so much competition, Aslan. Like, those two guys are like, nope, this is my year. I had to withstand Micah Pittman and Johnny Wilson. And then, now they bring in this freak from Michigan State. And, I get hurt. This is my time. Yeah. But you got to go earn it, man, because they're, these freshmen that are, and I say freshmen like Hakeem and Vandravius and Destin, those guys are coming to play. And these transfers didn't come to sit. So there is going to be so much competition at that position and in the secondary that I think, dare I say, it's going to be a lot of iron sharpening iron out there starting today. But, going back to Omar Graham real quick.
Well, hey, real quick, Randy Shannon, before we talk about what Coach Fuller had said, actually revealed that apparently, in his opinion, Omar was pushing Tatum and Kalen and DJ last year before he got hurt.
Yeah, that's what Fuller said. And it's, I get why they don't tell us about injuries or they don't want us to know about injuries or talk about them. But when the case of somebody like Omar Graham, he gets judged so unfairly because he's not healthy, but we don't know he's not healthy.
He only gets a limited amount of reps to show us, like in game.
Right, and in practice, he's getting hardly any reps because he's hurt. So anyway, Adam Fuller said he had an ankle, but he said, and he goes, look, I remember, because he was talking about Murphy, the kid from Alabama, and then,
Sean
obviously
Murphy.
DJ Lundy. And then he's like, and also, Omar Graham. He goes, I remember the guy I saw last fall before the injury. And he's like, that guy can play. That was not – he had a chance to be – he was going to be one of our best linebackers. And I remember that guy. I remember what it looked like. He goes, so I'm really excited about him because now that he's healthy. So talking about the depth and who's going to play. He talked about Nicholson and Murphy and Cryer all getting a lot of time on special teams and how that's important to them because they played football, even if they haven't played a ton of defensive snaps. they played in football games. But then he talked about Omar Graham as, yeah, man, don't forget about him and don't sleep on him. He was really coming on, and it just sounded like he was maybe their best linebacker for at least a portion of fall camp, and then he got hurt and didn't ever get to show it. And so that was a bummer. And also, quite frankly, you watch those highlights of Omar Graham, not highlights, but you watched him play sometimes. You're like, he doesn't really, I don't know if he should be on the field.
Yeah.
But he was hurt all year. So in fairness to him, he was playing through an injury, a bad one, that really slowed him down. Now he's got a chance to really go out and, earn a starting spot because it's there to be earned.
In your opinion, like when Coach Fuller was talking about starting off Earl Little at nickel, I'm sorry. Again, like he's going to begin his journey at nickel. He's not going to start necessarily games there. Is that like, do you think their best case? Thankfully, we get to speak to Coach Surtan, and we were speaking to him on Monday, but we'll all be able to speak to him on Tuesday after practice later today. But I just wonder, for some reason, I have this vision like Quindarius Jones playing slot corner and then Shaheem and Earl as your safeties. And I feel like I feel much better about that than I do Shaheem, Earl at slot, and then Hussey, Barker, Devontae Brown at safety. Like, do you have a feel for like if is the best case that Earl starts and winds up finding a home at the nickel?
I think what Adam Fuller has done an exceptional job of the last few years is getting the best players on the field in one way or the other. Finding a way to get those guys on the field, whether it's moving Jamie, moving Azarie around, finding a way to make sure his best defensive secondary players are on the field. And I think it'll be some chess there. But, it's also a scheme thing, right? Like he might think, and, last year it turned out, apparently, you had one of the best nickel corners in the country in Jarian Jones. Well, they had a really good pass defense. Jarian Jones was a huge part of that. The year before, maybe 2 years before, Kevin Noles was a huge part because of what he did at nickel. Now, he did not have his best year last year. He has not maybe turned into the player we hoped he would. But in 2021, he was such an upgrade out there that it completely changed the complexion of the defense. So that is an important position. Is it more important than safety? I mean, I don't know. I think it's what they value more, though, right? I don't think they have any doubt that Earl Little could be a good safety, but maybe they think he could be like an all-conference type nickel corner. And it's an important position now in football. It's not like every team you play is going three wide. You need a good nickel corner, and I think it's a good question though. It's like, would you rather have Little at safety and like Greedy's still on the team, right?
He is.
Okay,
yeah.
good. All right, Greedy, I remember you. Louisiana kid. Would you rather have Greedy Vance and Earl Little on the field at one time, and Greedy Vance is your nickel corner, or is you rather have Hussey and Earl Little on the field at the same time? Like, who's better? Conrad Hussey at safety, or Greedy Vance at nickel? Yeah. That's the kind of calculus you have to do when you're putting together a secondary like that. But I think it sounds like they think Earl Little could be really, really good at nickel, really good. And if you've got a chance to have a really good nickel corner, but if you move him to safety, he's just pretty good, I think you probably stay with the really good at the position he's really good at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense there? Yeah.
Absolutely. What's better than really good is great. This is more than great, though. It's the best time of year, in my opinion. The next, not the next 48 hours. I guess maybe like the next 96 hours. The NCAA tournament starts tonight, I guess, right? The playing games?
Sort of, whatever.
MyBookie.ag's got you ready to go. And use the promo code WARCHANT when you sign for the first time. You'll get an instant cash deposit bonus. Let's just go bang, bang real quick here. Howard versus Wagner. Wagner getting 3 from the Bison. Corey, who you got?
I don't know. Howard.
Okay.
It's ridiculous that they have to play each other.
Yeah. Virginia, Colorado State, the Cavs getting 2.5 from the mighty Mountain West Rams.
Don't ever bet against my man Tony Bennett in the NCAA tournament. You hear that, Ira? That's my dog. And he ain't going to lose to Colorado State. Are you crazy? Take Virginia plus 2.5. By the way, I just want to point out, I don't think if you win a conference championship, you should have to play in a playing game. That was my point.
You said it yesterday.
Yeah.
We know.
Well, I wanted people that didn't hear that to think, what does he have against Howard?
Yeah.
No, I want anybody that wins a small conference tournament to get an automatic bid to the real dance, and these should all be bubble teams. All these should be. This should be Pitt playing whoever, Oklahoma. Like these should be bubble teams playing in these play-in games, not conference champions.
Yeah, Florida should have got knocked down to a play-in game.
They should have been knocked out of the tournament, Aslan. I think we've made that clear.
Oh, Corey's poor mentions. His poor mentions. MyBookie.ag. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. They got a live casino, obviously. And they got the sports book going, so try it. Promo requires $50 minimum deposit and rollover requirement of one-timer deposit total, including bonus for withdrawal. For full terms and conditions, visit mybookie.ag/about-us. All right, that's a wrap for us. Practice starts 4:15. We'll probably have tweets going out like at 3:30, 3:45 of guys walking up to practice. So check that stuff out. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock.
No, Seminole Headlines.
Oh, Seminole Headlines. That's right. Excuse me. I apologize. Oh, wow. 1 to 3. Then you guys got to haul over to campus and find a parking spot. That's going to be fun.
It's fine. I'll walk. It's fine. I'll Uber. Maybe I'll just Uber to campus.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea. We'll have a live reaction show with Tom Lang and maybe you, Corey. I don't know. Are you signed up to going live with Tom right after practice? Or are you going to do – we're going to have a rap. We're going to have a Warchant rap after practice. We're going to have a live reaction.
You and I got to do a show after that. And There's a baseball game.
There is a baseball game against Stetson. I was trying to see if there was game notes out there to see who's going to start. I guess maybe Andrew Armstrong?
I figured you'd run with him again, run out him again after he did pitch on did he pitch on Saturday? He did pitch on Saturday, but yeah, I think he could start him on later today. Yeah, so there'll be a baseball game. We'll have that covered in some form or fashion. They're like a top 10-ish team, y'all. How awesome is that? Yeah.
So we got it all going on over at warchant.com. Now's the time to sign up at spring football. Or maybe wait a day, and then maybe they'll have a promo drop. I don't know. We usually have a promo drop around spring, but I might.
Well, we got the Garnet and Gold thing, so don't forget about that, everyone.
Yeah, if you're a member of warchant.com, you save 25% off baseball apparel. And listen, I love the football program, but baseball might have the cleanest designs of any team on campus.
Baseball jerseys are they're sharp.
Yeah.
They're sharp.
I miss the cream jerseys, though. I think he's phased that out, Link. They go with the all garnets now on Friday. It used to be like the cream tops, off-white, ivory, whatever you want to call it. But I did like the white with the garnet pinstripes. I'd
like him to go to banana yellow a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just once a month maybe. But, yeah. Hey, you know what? This ain't that show. We're not a uniform show, everyone.
We're not. We're bringing you what we can, when we can. It's warchant.com, Ultimate Seminole Sports Source. We'll be back with another show for you folks tomorrow. Subscribe, rate, and review. Tell a friend. Like the Ronco Food Dehydrator, and we'll give you a treat or something maybe. It's been Wake Up Warchant presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.